Hey, Charles here with Rocky Mountain, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install a Tusk Quiet Glide skid plate on your KTM 390 Adventure R or the Enduro R. It's going to be the same process on both of those bikes. Now, the crash bars, we're going to be showing you how to install those as well, but they only fit the Adventure R. So be aware of that. And for both of these products, type in your year, make, and model, and that way you make sure you're getting the correct products for your machine. Now, as far as installation goes, we're going to start with these crash bars because some of the steps overlap with the skid plate install. But if you're only installing a skid plate, feel free to fast forward or skip forward in the video to that section. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. To start out, we've organized everything. So right here we have our crash bars and the crash bar brackets. On this side, we have our skid plate with its mounting brackets. And then on our rag, we have all of the hardware combined. I do recommend laying out everything in order. It's going to help you stay organized throughout the process, and you want to compare all of this stuff to your instructions to make sure it's all there. And I also recommend reading through those instructions to get familiar with the install process. Now, I do want to point out that we have had these parts installed on our bike before, so you might see a couple scratches here and there, but we wanted to make sure we show you guys how to do this. So we're going to go ahead and get started from here. But if you don't have the skid plate or the crash bars yet, you can find these on our website by clicking the link in the description below. Now at the front of the bike, just above the fender, you're gonna have two nuts and bolts that we need to remove from our head stay. And then to get these bolts out, you're probably gonna have to push the head stay up and down, and you might even have to move the handlebars to gain enough clearance. Next, we're going to take our M90 flange bolt. We're going through the left-hand head tube bracket. Then on this back side, we've got that 3/8 spacer. Then we're going to go through the head stay and that head tube. Then we're going to do the same thing for the top mounting location. Then we can install the two spacers on the right side and that right side bracket. And then we can install the two nylock nuts, and we're going to leave all of the hardware loose until we have everything loosely installed. Then we can go back through and tighten down all of the hardware. Now for the horn, we need to gain some additional clearance. So we're gonna flip this bracket. That means I'm gonna loosen this nut first. Then I'm gonna remove this 5mm Allen at the top. Okay, then we just need to remove that nut. Flip the bracket, reinstall the nut and the bolt, and then tighten them down. Next, we're going to remove this front engine mounting bolt. So this is the first thing that will overlap with the skid plate install. So I'm going to push that bolt through, and if you're just doing the skid plate, you can crack these upper bolts loose as well to help that push through. But if you're doing the crash bars, you can go ahead and just remove these upper bolts completely. And as you pull that big bolt out, keep in mind there's a spacer on each side of the engine. Those spacers will not be reused. Next, we're going to take our right side crash bar, and if you are not installing a skid plate, the crash bar is going to sit just inside this engine hanger bracket, and then you would install the 1/4-inch spacer behind it in between your crash bar and the engine. Same thing on the other side. But if you are installing a skid plate at the same time, you want to put the skid plate bracket in place of that 1/4-inch spacer. And with this, the bend on the bracket, it should look like this. So the flat section is facing the front wheel. And then as you put this together, just make sure you leave the hardware loose. Now, if you're just installing a skid plate, then you would put that spacer on the outside of the mounting bracket and do these same steps with this mounting bolt. All right, so back to the right side crash bar. I'm gonna set this in place, and it might be useful to have a friend help you hold some of the parts as you install hardware. I'm gonna start the big bolt, and then before it goes all the way through, I wanna make sure I put my skid plate bracket in. And then make sure the bolt starts into the other side of your bracket or spacer, whichever one you're going with. We're just gonna leave that space for the other crash bar, but back to the upper side of the right crash bar, we have a spacer that goes in the top of each side of this hanger bracket. And then we've got a washer on these hex head bolts. And then anything we're not using a nylock nut on, we're going to be using a little bit of thread locker. Just a reminder, we're leaving all the hardware loose so we can make adjustments. Then we'll set the left crash bar in place, line up your brackets, and then push the big engine mounting bolt through. Again, we've got a little thread locker on there. Install that nut by hand, and then we'll do the same thing with the hardware on the upper mounts for the hanger bracket. Now right here at the front, we're gonna take our M8 by 35 millimeter button head bolts, and we're gonna go through both sides of the crash bars and then through that head stay tube mount as well. Now, if these don't line up easily, you could have hardware that is too tight so you can back it off, or for us, one thing I'm doing to make it easier, I'm gonna use an alignment punch on one side. I'll get everything lined up and then start one bolt. Then we'll push that one bolt through, do the same thing for the second, and then install the nylock nuts on the back side. And if you're just installing these crash bars, you can go back through and tighten down all of your hardware at this point, but we're gonna continue with the skid plate. But if you are tightening down, don't forget the head stay bolts, these two up here, and then you have the two upper fasteners on each hanger, and then that lower mount for the engine. Now to remove the stock skid plate, we're gonna be removing these 4 bolts. Now, as this comes off, you can see how thin it is and why you'd want to be upgrading to a more heavy-duty skid plate. And then we're going to remove the stock skid plate mounting brackets. The front one you have to remove, the back one, it's optional. You can leave it there if you want to, but we're going to take it off. Now we already have the front bracket installed. So for the back bracket, this square side, that's gonna be on the left side of the bike. We're gonna be using the hex head bolts, and again, I'm using thread locker on these. And there's a nut that's welded to the frame. It's already existing. And both of these bolts need to be tightened down at this time. Next, we're gonna set the skid plate in place, and we're using the 4 Torx head bolts to mount this up. I'm also using some thread locker on those. And then from here, we need to adjust everything for the best fitment, and we can go back through and tighten down all of our hardware. Keep in mind on those engine hanger bolts, those upper bolts are gonna be torqued to 18.4 foot-pounds. And that lower engine mounting bolt is going to be torqued to 32.5 foot-pounds. Then to finish up, we just need to tighten down the front mounting bolts on the crash bars. And make sure you secure the brackets connected to the head stay. All right, so there you have it. That's it for installing the Tusk Quiet Glide Adventure skid plate and the Tusk Crash Bars on your 2025 and newer KTM 390 Adventure R or the Enduro R. Now, if you have any questions, leave those down in the comments. And if you need to pick a set of these up, they're available on our website. Just click the link in the description below. Orders over $75 ship free. We're ready to go ride and put these through the paces. Now, if you haven't already checked out our other content, make sure you subscribe to our channel. I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Thanks for watching.